There's no denying that robot vacuums are pretty much all the rage these days, but honestly, they're not the only game in town. This here is the Dreame H14 Pro Wet Dry Vac. It's probably the third or fourth one that I've used over the years, but I'm still honestly surprised that a lot of people still don't know what a wet dry vac actually is. So let's start with the basics and go over what this thing can actually do. This is a stand-up vacuum that can clean up dry and wet messes on your floor. If you've seen the latest robot vacuums that do have that roller mop brush at the bottom, this actually works pretty similar to that, with a self-cleaning mop roller at the bottom to make sure that your floors are as clean as they can possibly be. So what can this thing actually do? Well, let me show you. I think the best way to put it is that the Dreame H14 is the perfect cleaner for your floors if you don't want a robot vacuum that's going back and forth in your house every other day, and if you just hate mopping your floors. With 18,000 pascals of suction, this thing can do an amazing job vacuuming up practically anything that's in front of it. Now, it's not every day that you're gonna have a spill like this on your floor, but this is by far just the best way to show you and test out what this vacuum can do, since you'd usually have to pull out about a half dozen paper towels to clean up all the liquids and the solids in this mess. And then after that, you're gonna have to break out a separate mop or a Swiffer just to make sure that the floor is actually clean and not sticky after all the liquids dry up. I have to admit that that mess was pretty insane. I've been doing robot vacuum cleanup videos for the last couple years, and that one was the largest mess I've ever made. Never put peanut butter or syrup on the floor, and this thing cleaned it up like it wasn't even an issue. So if it can clean that mess up with such ease, it could probably handle anything that you can throw at it. After using this to clean the floors in my house for the last couple days, I have to say that going back to cleaning up messes with a paper towel and then pulling out a mop kind of feels like going back to the Stone Ages. And I do want to mention that Dreame also has a brand new edge-to-edge system with the H14 Pro that allows you to get incredibly close to the baseboards in your rooms just to make sure that you're getting the best clean possible. Some of the older units that I used a couple years back didn't have this and typically had about a ½ inch gap between the roller mop and the baseboards, which means you had a mess still left behind after you were done cleaning up, which honestly isn't ideal. Now, when it comes to cleaning, there are a couple of different options here for the H14 Pro. And the one that you're probably going to be using the most is auto mode, which uses the mop and also the vacuum suction at the same time on a medium setting. But if you are going over a larger mess, it will automatically kick things into high gear, increasing the suction power for the vacuum and then also increasing the RPM for the mop roller, just to make sure that it cleans up everything in its path. The second cleaning mode to choose from is suction mode, and this one's pretty unique since it actually turns off the mop roller, since that usually dispenses water while it's cleaning your floors. This is essentially meant to increase the suction power so that you can clean up standing water or any other liquids that are on your floor. And then once that's done, if you still need to mop the floor, you can always just switch over to auto mode and get everything else cleaned up as well. Next up is Ultra mode, and though while the name might sound like it's going to be turning on maximum power for all of the settings here, it's actually intended to be a sterilization feature since it electrolyzes the water that's inside of the mop feature and then uses that to disinfect your floors while you're mopping. And then finally, there's custom mode, which is where you're actually going to be pairing the H14 Pro with the Dreame app, just to make sure that you can customize all of the cleaning features to your own likings. If you're somebody who wants to make sure that your floors are as clean as possible, you can tweak every individual setting to make sure that they're turned up all the way to maximum, just to make sure that every time that you're going over your floor, it's as clean and spotless as possible. Or if you want to make sure that you're turning down some of the settings just because you know that you haven't spilt anything on your floors in a while, you can definitely do that as well. One of the great things about the design of the Dreame H14 Pro is that it's honestly quite flexible, allowing it to lie flat on its back even while it's cleaning. That 180 degrees of flexibility should allow you to clean underneath a lot of the furniture in your house, since the vacuum's body can squeeze in underneath any furniture that's at least 14 centimeters off the floor. And if you do have furniture that's shorter than that, the vacuum's head can squeeze underneath furniture that's 8 centimeters off the floor. One of the reasons why the H14 Pro can actually pull this off even while lying flat on its back is because of the new liquid separator mode that's built into this unit that prevents liquids from backflowing even when the unit's not in an upright position, something that a lot of other wet dry vacuums actually struggle with. Now, you might be thinking that the vacuum is going to lose some of its suction power when it's completely stretched out to 180 degrees in its lie flat position, but Dreame's engineers actually made sure that its vacuum power stays consistent no matter what position it's in. So if you're using it upright or lie flat on its back, the H14 Pro is still going to do its job. When it comes to battery life, Dreame claims that this unit has 40 minutes runtime on a single charge, which honestly is a lot for a product like this, since I can clean the basement, first floor, and second floor of my house with the H14 Pro in under 30 minutes. So that should give you plenty of wiggle room if you have a lot of messes to clean up or if your house is a lot bigger than mine. Once you are done cleaning your entire house with the H1 Pro, just return it back to the base station for it to start charging automatically. And of course, that base station does have a hot water self-cleaning mode built in as well to make sure that any of the dirt and liquids that you cleaned up from your floor are completely removed from the mop pad, and also that mop pad is dried so that there's no smells lingering behind. Now, a lot of other wet dry vacs do offer a hot drying feature as well, but Dreame has equipped the base station with a 5-minute flash drying mode, which is incredibly fast, but I do have to say, it is a little bit loud. This is the super speed drying at about 2 feet, 5 feet, and this here is about 25 feet away in the other room. If I go upstairs, I can barely hear it, but it's still something that you're gonna be noticing in the background. And for comparison, this is how loud it is using the standard drying mode.
Quiet drying. Last about 1 hour.
I would say there's a huge difference there. But you can also just use the app to schedule the drying time for any time that you want. So if you want it to run in the middle of the night when you're never going to hear it, you can definitely do that. Now, another one of the features that I really do like about the H14 Pro is that at the bottom on the back, it does have 2 self-propelled wheels that not only allow it to assist in pushing this forwards, but also backwards when you are vacuuming and mopping your floor. Now, there are a lot of units out there that don't have the self-propelled wheels, and you might think, do I really need that or not? This is actually pretty heavy. So if you're moving this around for 10 to 15 minutes, having that extra assist comes in very, very handy. The H14 Pro is a great tool to help keep your floors clean in your house, especially if you're someone who doesn't have a whole lot of carpets and rugs on your floors. As someone who has a whole lot of robot vacuums that are constantly going around my house cleaning things up, I was actually pretty surprised at how much more dirt and grime the H14 Pro was actually able to clean up compared to those devices. Though you still have to do some of the work yourself with this one. If you want to know more about the Dreame H14 Pro, make sure you check out the link in the video description below. If you have any questions for me about how I've been using it over the last couple of weeks, be sure to leave those in the comments and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.